All right, this is another part three of this anonymous two persons reading, and this I'm going to talk about just a little bit about problems, and I'm just going to touch on again the big things that I see because we don't have a hell of a lot of time, but I just did want to touch on, and then some of the stuff I'm going to talk about they're just in somebody who you can apply it to your life. Even if you have these placements, I'm gonna talk about whatever, but there are gonna be some things in here that people can take away and apply to their charts and to their lives as well. So she wanted to know the problems that this child will have. What they need help with. That's what she said. What they need help with. So I immediately went to the squares in the chart because the square is the conflict aspect. It shows tension. Shows where we have problems. So that's why I wanted to hit on that one. That aspect in particular. So she has Chiron, however you say it. It's an asteroid. It looks like a K. It looks like a little key. It's a K, and then it's like a little circle at the bottom. If you don't know if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll screenshot it to you. But Chiron, however you want to say it, it's called the Wounded Healer. It's an asteroid, and it's the energy in us. It's my interpretation of all of this stuff for the record. It's the energy where something happens to us, usually early in life, in our childhood, or adolescence, somewhere up in there. Sometimes even when we get a little bit older. But it's usually in childhood. It's usually where, see, now we're talking about things like the subconscious mind. I believe all of that stuff ties into astrology, and astrology ties into it. But for a lot of us, a lot of the times, Chiron is there. It happens to us because we are not aware of why something keeps happening, and we get programmed from an early age to think a certain way, to behave a certain way, to like this is how life is. Like we adopt this fucked up way of being, and we grow up with it, but we don't know we're being programmed by it. We don't with it. We don't know we're being programmed with it, whether it be through our parents, TV, friends, whatever it is. So Chiron is the wounded healer. It's the part of us that when we, were young, we or just naive, when we weren't aware somehow, we were hurt, we were wounded. And we grow up with this wound, and it stays open. It never really closes, actually. But what happens is, at a certain time in your life, whether it be through your own will or astrologically speaking, it comes a time in your life when you want to deal with that shit. You want to tackle it. So when you do that, you become the healer. You still have the wound. The wound is still there. But because of you going towards that, understanding it, like, man, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of this thing happening. I need to do something about this. I want to empower my life. Whatever. We do that by healing other people. We can't completely heal the wound. It'll always be open. It'll always be there. The problem, whatever happened with us, it'll always be open. When I say open, I don't mean we have to suffer from it. It's just some shit that happened. It's a wound. It's a patch. Like, you get into a fight and it's a scratch there. It leaves a scratch. It's the same thing. It leaves a wound. So I guess you could say like a war wound. The Chiron is. It's something you went through, and it'll always be a wound there. But a way you can sort of what's the word I want to use? Make up for it in a way is by helping other people through who maybe they're going through the same thing that you went through. If not the same thing, you teach them the psychology of this Chiron. You teach them that, man, you was young, don't worry about it. It wasn't your fault. You hear that shit. We hear that a lot. We grow up with shit, and we grow up with some kind of problem, something that happened, and we get older and we're like, man, what the hell? Like, I feel like I'm out of control. Why does this shit keep happening? It's not your fault. It's everybody has a Chiron in their chart. Everybody has been wounded one way or another, and they grow up with it. Some people never address this shit. But it's not your fault. Everybody has one. So it's a little bit about Chiron. And so hers is in the 6th house, but I want to talk about like I said, the squares, because that shows where the problems are. And for the record, another thing, squares, they do not have to last. They do not have to like, well, this is what I have in my chart. This is I'm just powerless. I can't do shit about it. Fuck, I got to deal with this for the rest of my life. No, you have to. The solution is understanding it, becoming aware of it. I gave y'all an analogy in one of my videos I did like 4 days ago, that understanding and awareness, I swear you can move mountains with it. You can do the impossible. It's like you're being on one team, like we're playing sports, right? And you're one team, and the problem is another team. This is you, this is the problem. When you have understanding and awareness, how could the team of the other team, like, this is the problem, this is you. When you understand the problem and aware of why the problem is, how could it bother you? It doesn't bother you, you understand it. You're aware of what's going on. It'll be there, but it won't bother you. So just understand that that's the solution of a square. You ask me, is to understand. And a square is nothing but two conflicting energies inside of us. It's inside of us that we need to understand about ourselves. The conflict will always be there, but it doesn't have to be like a bad thing. It doesn't have to be a tension. Once you understand it, once you're aware of it, then it becomes a more acceptance kind of thing. You be like, okay, this is who I am. This is the person I was born as. This is this is something about me. It's not a bad thing. So in just that part, just in understanding the nature of your square, you can make it work for you. You do that by acceptance, by understanding, like, this is who I am. I got this going on, but this part of me don't agree with that. They bumping heads. And what happens with people who don't want to understand their square, who don't know about astrology, who just are those people who are like, they just like, fuck it, I don't, this is a problem I have. It's just something I got to deal with for the rest of my life. It'll just keep on being a fucked up tension. It'll just keep repeating itself as a negative theme in your life over and over. Instead of you saying, instead of becoming aware of it. and understanding what's going on. So she has Mars I wanted to talk about, but definitely the Chiron. She has Mars looking at it. And remember in the last video I told you what Mars was. Then they're square to each other. Then she has, let me see. And she has the Sun squared to Chiron. So Mars, for her, is the Lord of the 8th house and the 3rd house. I want to touch on the 8th house because we don't have a lot of time to do everything. So we don't have a lot of time to do everything. So I want to touch on the 8th house. And so the 8th house, in what I see, what I'm getting from this, remember the 7th house is courting, is two coming together and forming a relationship, forming some kind of agreement, some kind of partnership. What happens after that, what happens in the actual agreement, the actual relationship, that's the 8th house. And Mars is Lord of the 8th house. So what I'm seeing is, let her know, guide her, raise her, teach her, whatever you want to call it, to decipher the difference between that Mars, remember, that Mars and that Jupiter. That Mars is what ticks her, what makes her tick, right? The what turns her on, if we want to use words, right? And Jupiter is the actual the one that that women really want, right? That remember they want the good one, they want the husband type. They're both, for her, is both in Gemini. Teach her to decipher and watch out for the difference between the two. Mars is in the more unstable part of Gemini. See, this Mars is unconventional. It just wants everything, wants all the money, just wants to be out there, just doing everything, just the best at everything. It's a very, you know what I'm saying? It's an unstable nature. But see, Jupiter is not squared to her Chiron. What I'm saying, the big picture is that if she don't watch out for that Mars, it's going to hurt her. It's going to happen early too. If she don't decipher the difference and understand the difference, she's going to grow up with that wound. Because Mars is a bad aspect to her. It's something that she has to understand early before she even gets into relationships about herself. And if she doesn't, she'll get into relationships and she'll find out that way, but she increases her chances for being hurt, of that growing up with that wound. So watch out for that. And another thing I wanted, the square, another square is the Sun is squared up with Chiron. It's loose. It's rather, let me see. Yeah, it's loose. It's 9 degrees. So it has an effect, but it won't be that strong of an effect. But so I ain't gonna touch too hard on it, because it's not gonna be that hard of an effect, but it'll be there real loosely. Is that if there's a thing with self-expression with her, identifying, especially, like that might get her ego might get hurt earlier. So watch out for that, because Sun is squared up with Chiron. You know, I told you what Chiron is. I say ego because that's what Sun is. You know, that part in us that want to just express like this, hey, this, hello world, this is who I am. Well, there's a world or not, this is me. You know, the part in astrology everybody identifies with, and they just think that's all astrology is, just the Sun. Well, her Sun, like I said, just watch out for that. Her ego, just help her build a strong ego about herself. is what I'm saying. How you can help her. That's a problem she might have. A problem she might have. Because it, in one way or another, and it could happen. It could happen in public, like something in public could happen, because her son is with the midheaven. The midheaven is the most visible part of us that you couldn't hide if you if you know what I mean, if you disguised yourself. People will see you just as bright as somebody who likes to disguise himself. That's what I'm saying. That's how bright it is. And the sun is right there with it. So that shows me that something, her ego might get hurt out in public where everybody can see it. So watch out for that. It's a problem she might have. And this is a birth chart. So, the good news about it is it's so loose. So it's not going to hit her that hard, but it'll have an effect on her growing up. So just watch out for that. If you can, do what you can to this is all about develop a thick skin is what I'm saying for her. For her specifically, help her develop a thick skin, help her develop, confidence if you can. Because every child is different. You got to raise all our children. They are tailored. You cannot raise every child the same, because every child is not going to understand the things the same. They're not going to understand. We be trying to teach them about consequences. They might not understand it how that child understands it. Astrology shows you it in tiniest pieces shows you what the problems are, how to solve them, and everything. It's tailored for each child. What one child is going through, the other one might be like, man, you a bitch. That ain't nothing. And vice versa. So that's what I'm saying. All of them are different. It's something to look out for, though. Help her develop a strong sense of who she is, and help her to be proud of it. Always encourage her to be who she is, no matter what. That is going to help her so much, because that sun is right there. And then her sun being in the 10th house, that's another strength she has. See, the sun in the 10th house, it gets directional strength. What's called Digbala in Vedic astrology. Digbala. That is where the sun is the strongest. So this is the story of her. Even though she might get hurt, she will always overcome it. Always. Because the sun is at its highest of highs. It's in its no matter what, that sun is up there. Was versus some other house, it's not gonna be as strong. Like that shit happens, and then it's not as strong. But sun in the 10th house, that is the best place the sun can be in. Forgot to hit on that. So just know that, understand that, and then yeah, she has one more thing I want to touch on. Is the sun and the ascendant are squared up against each other. It's about understanding. Once again, help her to understand that it is okay to identify as one person, right? To identify as a Virgo. That's the ascendant. That's who we identify with. That's who we want the world to see us as this hardworking person, this perfectionist, this pure person. Just more of a shy, timid. They just want to do things perfectly. They want to be as efficient as possible. They want to keep busy. They want to help people. But she ends up expressing herself as a Gemini. She's a Gemini. And there's nothing wrong with this. This is what I'm saying. There's nothing wrong with this aspect. It's about understanding it. It's about becoming aware of it. Okay, this is who I am. That's what over life, I think, this is my theory again. Over our lives, it's about understanding our birth chart and accepting all of it as who we are, whether it's good or bad. That's the big picture. That's one of the biggest pictures of astrology and of life. Peace.